What's going on, YouTube? It's Friday night. Now, a lot of things have changed for me. One being, I've been sick. When I say sick, I've been sick. No, I don't have the Rona. I just got the normal cold you normally get when it's fall, okay? It's getting cold here in Minnesota, and yes, I look like crap because I feel like crap. I don't know what I'm going to do for this rant video, but I think what I'm going to talk about is my week, okay? My week's been great. They always are great. Really, when it gets right down to it, I still managed to kick out the cars. I still managed to diagnose them. I've been struggling because I've been sick. I've had a few cars that just completely blew my mind. I've been trying to video record my diagnoses, which has been working out really well. The only problem with that is now I've got all these videos and I don't know how to put them all together into a video for YouTube because they're just so all over the place. You guys probably won't be able to follow along. But I'll do my best. I've got a lot of videos. It doesn't matter. I was working on a Chevy. I'll talk about the Chevy Cruze that I was working on, okay? I didn't do a video on this Chevy Cruze. I did do like a Facebook post on it. It was a 1.4 turbocharged, right? 2013, I think. And 89,000 miles on this 1.4 GM Cruze. And, you know, it comes in, check engine light, and it's got the secondary arcing out from the coil pack tower, or whatever you want to call it, the coil module, right? She's arcing out, real simple. My son was just getting out of school. He walked over to the shop after school because it's only a couple blocks away from my work. And I'm like, hey, you know, come here, check this out. You know, I'm showing my son, trying to teach him stuff. You can see it, you can hear it. And I told him, I'm like, I bet you. I'm like, hey, hook the scan tool up. And I'm going to make a bet with you. Do you want to make a bet with me? And he's like, nah, I don't want to make a bet. I'm like, well, do you want to make a bet? Like, I bet you there's a P0300 in there. Or a 304. Because it was cylinder 4 that was arcing out. All right? Pretty crazy. Like, it actually, like, was arcing out of the coil tower so bad that it had actually, like, eaten the plastic out. And there was a massive hole. Well, after I dug it out with my pocket screwdriver, there was a massive hole. Crazy. Just a visual, just listening. Didn't really take all that much to diagnose it. Trust me. Pattern failure on those. I think I've done a video before on one that had broken coil, the coil tower, if you will, on the 1.4 where they break off in there under the boots and then they get secondary leaks and they cause misfires, okay? Nevertheless, what was I going to get? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So this thing comes in for the check engine light. That was the only complaint. And, of course, it was the misfire. So done. 5 minutes. We're done. So I start checking this car over because it's 89,000 on a 1.4 GM. Now, these things, guys, pattern failures, okay? Valve cover, it's leaking. I pull the oil cap. Not a lot of vacuum on the oil on the PCV system. So I'm like, you know what? It probably needs a valve cover. Not probably. It does. Needs a valve cover. Not even going to risk it. Recommending the front seal on the freaking crank right away. Because guaranteed I'll do the valve cover. It'll be back in 2 weeks for a howling or some crazy engine noise because it's sucking vacuum through that damn seal. So it's been my habit based on the cost. It's only like an hour to do it. Just valve cover, front seal, okay? Valve cover and front seal, coil module, which 9 times out of 10 is due at that mileage, all the plugs, and, then, of course, I look at the coolant reservoir, right? I look at the overflow bottle or the pressure tank, if you will, right? Low on coolant. Well, where's that going? So I start looking around. I'm like, you know what? I'll just throw the pressure tester on there. So I throw the pressure tester on there. And of course, holding pressure. Where the hell is the coolant going? And you flex. All you got to do is flex that outlet on the back side of the engine, transmission side, right? There's the outlet assembly, and it's plastic, okay? Flex it, boom, see the coolant coming out, we're done right there, needs a coolant assembly, okay? Common, they'll seep so slow, they'll actually, I swear they missed out of that thing, and it'll evaporate, kind of like a radiator that's got a pinhole in it, and they'll evaporate, and they won't leave any residue on there, but the coolant level will be going low. And the customer will complain that they got a slow coolant leak, and you'll be putting a pressure tester on there, cold, hot, doesn't really matter, and you won't find the leak. That's where it's coming from. I did a little short snippet of that. I'll include that at the end of this, by the way. I'm going to include those little snippets of those videos I did at the end of this rant because we're talking about it. So anyways, nonetheless, I recommend the coolant assembly. Well, then I start squeezing the coolant hoses, and sure enough, all of them are weak. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're already a valve cover, front seal. The belt's worn, of course, original. So it needs a belt, needs a freaking valve cover, needs a front seal, needs plugs, needs a coil module. I mean, this list is getting long, guys. So then I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll check the air filter. Dirty. Original. 89,000 miles. Original air filter. Needs an air filter. Air box is disgusting, so that needs to be cleaned out. We'll do that when we do the belt. Tear it all out of there. What the hell else is wrong with that? Well, obviously we're going to flush the coolant when we do that. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, yeah. So then I lift the thing up. Oh, I checked the cabin filter. Disgusting. Full of debris. Full of crap, guys. Full of crap. Never been changed. I'm surprised the customer was even getting anything out of the vents. So I need the cabin filter. Lift it up. Tires are starting to chop out a little bit in the rear. I'm a little concerned. 2 different tread designs. You know, they obviously had to replace 2 tires on one axle, or, you know, one axle, if you will, versus the other. So I recommend alignment check just to make sure the rear toe isn't spanked on it and the front's good, which ended up being good, by the way, which was sweet because that saved the customer some money. I go underneath. I start looking. Oh, yeah, tranny cooler lines are blown out, freaking leaking all over the place. So there we go. Front bumper's got to come off. You know, and then both output seals for the freaking transmission are leaking. Transmission fluid, don't even mess around anymore when they're at 80,000 plus on the Chevy 1.4. Any Chevy, to be honest with you, the transmission fluid needs to be flushed, guys. So we're running 18 quarts through it, getting the torque converter clean, getting it all done, putting the new seals in, and we're done. So both output seals, new tranny cooler lines. What the hell else did I do to that thing? Rear brakes are spanked. Calipers are shot. Yeah, calipers are shot at 89,000. It's Minnesota. Just saying, guys. Pads are all rust jacked in there. So much rust. We're doing pads. We're doing rotors. We're doing calipers. We're flushing the brake system, guys. Plus an oil change. Because I'm doing the valve cover and I'm putting new oil in it. Straight up. Needless to say, all of that, our bill is getting up there, okay? Now, I should have recommended all the cooling hoses, and I'll be honest with you, I should have done the heater hoses, I should have done the hose going down to cool the turbo, I should have done, 89,000 miles and the hoses are already garbage on this thing. They're mushy, they're nasty, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to recommend them. They're not as bad as some of them I've seen when they're oil saturated and they're all swollen to beat hell. Yeah, they're a little mushy. These engines, guys, on these GM 1.4s are built like crap. Garbage, okay? Needless to say, I didn't recommend them, and I should have. I advised the customer after the fact, after I got done with all the repairs, like, hey, you know, I was going to recommend all these hoses. They're not leaking. They aren't leaking. I just replaced the one that I'm about to tell you with a clamp, and it's fine. But I advise the customer that, hey, look, you know, seen this a lot. It's going to be due. It's going to be time to do it. Unfortunately, I know you just spend a lot of money, but it's the way it goes. You know, I didn't design the crap, okay? I didn't design the crap. And I'm trying to save the customer some money based on, you know, like all the crap that's due. Now, surprisingly, the suspension was in pretty good shape. The rear shocks were starting to leak, but outside of that, suspension was tight. No loose tie rods, no loose ball joints, control arm bushings weren't wasted. So that's pretty cool. But I'll digress. Is that the right word? Digress? Anyways, I'm just like sitting here thinking, I'm like, where does this end? You know, like I'm afraid to recommend more because I don't want to, I mean, I didn't think it was all going to sell to begin with, but it did. The gal's like, just do it all. It's like, holy crap. And that's been the common theme. That's why I've been getting burnt out. That's why I've been getting sick. I'm not complaining at all. Not complaining at all. It's actually pretty freaking awesome. But it's crazy. Like, me and the other tech I work with are talking like, dude, I'm afraid to recommend what it actually is needed to fix this one because I know they're going to say yes. And that's literally been the norm, guys. People have been saying yes to everything. It doesn't mean that we're taking advantage of them because we're not. This stuff is needed. You know, if it was my car, I know I would have to do it. But like the coolant hoses, getting back to the coolant hoses, like I'm like thinking to myself like, yeah, I could recommend them all. And to be honest with you, they needed to be replaced. But I was like, you know what? On this one, I'm just going to advise them, hey, look, you know, coolant hoses are starting to get a little mushy. They weren't oil saturated, which is surprising because usually when they have valve cover problems, the VVT solenoids, the O-rings on them, they fail all the time. So when you do a valve cover on those 1.4s, guys, VVT solenoid seals, the 2 O-rings, do them. Do the valve cover. Just replace the whole thing. It's PCVs included, replace it. Usually you don't need a coil module by then because a lot of times, and here's the other thing, when you're taking off the connector for those coil modules, be careful because I see a lot of guys breaking them. Same with that cover that covers it. Like, that is an engine you have to be extremely, guys, careful with everything. Because everything's brittle, everything will break. Anyways, VVT solenoid seals, valve cover will come with the seal, coil module, plugs, outlet assembly for the cooling on the back side of the head, transmission side. Do all your coolant hoses. Do the heater hoses. Do the hose to the radiator. Do the thermostat housing assembly. Do that. I mean, that's typically what it needs. A belt, a front seal, and whatever else it may need. And then exchange the coolant, do an oil change on it, and she'll be solid, okay, for another 100K. But it's funny because I put all this stuff down, right? So I write all this stuff up. So we call down to the GM dealer where we get our parts, right? Because I will not go through aftermarket vendors anymore with a lot of my parts because we all know why. Needless to say, it's funny because the parts guy's like, oh, it sounds like you're doing a 100K service. And I'm just like dying because my service area comes up to me. He's like, dude, like after I called him up, or no, my parts guy, he's like, after I called him up and told him everything he needed, he's like, oh, it sounds like you're doing a 100K service. And it's like, yeah, it's so true because that's a 100K service on a 1.4. Whatever, right? Beside the turbo problems, which I'm not even going to get into. Anyways, let me know what you guys run into. That's what I ran into this week. That was a big ticket, guys. I was surprised that she, one of the big tickets, because I did a couple. But, and then I had that 93 Chevy, you know, kicking my rear end, you know, getting a review on old school Chevy fuel systems and how their circuits work and the oil pressure switch, you know, it's just like, whatever. Weeks are so weird, right? But everything has value, right? Anyways, I might go live Sunday. I think I will go live Sunday. I'm probably going to go live Sunday. That's what I'm going to do. So around noon, I'll go live Sunday. This is my rant video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I felt like just making a video tonight, just talking about whatever. Oh, I almost forgot the most important part about that Chevy 1.4. So, I'm back. I vacuumed the thing down, the cooling system, when I'm all done, right? I vacuumed it down, I fill it, and I got my son in the car, and I'm filling the transmission, and I don't know, like those 1.4 transmission, those transmissions in those Chevys, you got to get them at like 183 to 203 temp, and then you pull that check plug on the left side near the left front axle output. You pull that check plug, right, and it's got to have the dribble at 183 to 203 in transmission temp. Okay. So we're getting this thing up to temp, me and my son. I got him in the car, he's running it reverse, drive, neutral, all the way back, right? Trying to get this transmission temp up. I got the scan tool in front of him. He's doing, learning. And I'm like underneath the car, putting the front bumper back on, because you do the tranny lines, I just take the front bumper off. It's a lot easier. Be careful doing that too, by the way, because everything's cheap and crap. And a lot of times you're going to run into it where it's all broke up, like usual, on that engine and that platform. Needless to say, I'm putting the front bumper on, I look up and I see a coolant leak. And I'm like, what the hell? I just fixed this thing. What did I not tighten up or do, right? So I drop the car down. My son's still in the car. Now, mind you guys, this thing's at 170, almost at 180 degree. No, actually, I take that back. Well, no, transmission temp. Engine coolant temp, we're at full temp, okay? Fans are kicking on, cycling. I mean, we're up at the 215 range, right? She's hot. I drop it down. I see the spurting coming out of the coolant hose that goes down to the turbo, little guy, going to that outlet assembly, and I reuse the spring clamps if I can. I try to, because they do allow for expansion and contraction. Well, here that hose is weak, and I see it spurting on. I'm like, oh, I got to put a clamp on it. So I literally looked down at where it was spurting. I just looked down and I just barely touched it with my finger, and boom, she blows off, spurts me right in the face. I get it right down the throat. Deck's cool, burning hot, and I don't know if you can see it, but I got a little blister here, but it got me all right here. It even got me up on top of and thank God, it did not hit me in the eyes. And I will tell you this, here moving forward, I'm not a big safety guy a lot of times, but I should be. I do put safety glasses on when I'm doing like grinding and stuff like that, because I've learned my lesson. But I'll tell you what, learning moment, okay? I've been hit in the face and I've been hit in the head with hot coolant before and burned, but man, it was bad. Like, it was so bad. Like, guys, I was running my face underwater. It didn't help. It was like the worst ever. I thought I was, I'm in shock, literally, like the adrenaline, like I'm shaking. So I'm like, it's Friday night. So, or not Friday night, last night rather. I'm like, I'm going home. F this car can wait till tomorrow. So I left. I'll put a hose clamp on it tomorrow, it'll be fine. And sure enough, it was, right? But needless to say, I get in the car, I'm like cranking the AC. My son's in the passenger seat, he's freezing. I got my face in front of the AC, driving home. Thank goodness I don't drive a long ways home, because I ain't going to the hospital. I mean, what are they going to do for, a scald burn? Tell you to run it underwater, put some ointment on it, cover it, whatever. Okay, I ain't going to the hospital, guys. Just saying. So I go home. I get it under control. I pop the freaking, the ibuprofen. I pop 400, about 400 milligrams of ibuprofen. Drank a couple beers with, needless to say, I medicated. Put a little ointment on there, and I finally got it to calm down. Thank goodness it's fall here and it's starting to get cool outside, because I literally spent the night out in the garage because just the cold air. Oh, Slept it off. Woke up this morning. It's tender. I got a couple blisters here, and it is tender. But it's like, think about that. Okay? Just think about that. You never think it would happen, but it did. And it literally was on there all the way, guys. It was on there all the way. It was just spurting out a little bit. You could see the mist, right? And I barely touched it. Barely touched it because I was worried I maybe I cracked the housing or something when I was putting the hose on. Who knows, right? Cheap plastic. Barely touched that hose. And I had my face just right there and boom, right in the lips. Learning moment. Safety, guys. I know we joke around about it. At times, but I'll be thinking twice from now on. I'll tell you that. I'll be thinking twice, and maybe it takes getting burned. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's long. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Sunday if you're coming in on the live feed. If not, no big deal. Don't worry about it. I'm going to post it regardless. So take care. My reception wasn't as good on the last one, so I gotta fix something on that. So thanks for watching, guys. We got 2013 Chevy Cruze with a 1.4 liter, right? 1.4 liter P0300, and oh yeah, secondary problem. Time for a coil and plugs. So you're gonna get these 1.4s and they're gonna have a real slow coolant leak, and you're gonna be like, well, where's it coming from? Come right on down yonder and she'll be dry. You can see it's wet right now because I flexed it. I flexed it. Just keep an eye out, right? See if I get this light in there, right? Right there. And there it is. We're done. Needs assembly, and it's all one unit. Get it right from GM.